In Volleyball, push and pull effects are extremely relevant because if you can use them on your opponents right before the ball is about to land on their side, you can basically guarantee that they won't be able to hit it back and you'll score a point. So other brawlers that are good are brawlers that can basically avoid these stun effects. So brawlers like Stu and Mortis and Colette who have dashing abilities, so basically they can stay far away from the point until the absolute last second when they need to go and hit the ball. And if you're playing one of those brawlers, you typically want to stay back on your side for most of the match. But if you're playing one of the brawlers that have the push and pull effects, you want to be getting onto your opponent's side and trying to make sure you time it exactly right. And I'm going to be ranking every single brawler with a push and pull effect for this volleyball mode so you can figure out the best brawlers to play in order to get an insane amount of trophies on this new mode. The ranking isn't like set in stone, but generally we're going from the worst effects to the very best effects at the end of the video. So first we have Ems with her friend zoner gadget that's going to push back opponents in a small area of effect around you. Now it does clear the zone pretty well for where the ball is going to land, but you do have to basically be right on top of it, and if there are already opponents standing there, it's very unlikely you'll actually be able to get there in order to get value out of this gadget, so that's why it's at the bottom of the list. Then with Daryl, you can use his super to knock people off the point. The thing is with this super, it's kind of inaccurate where they're actually going to get knocked to. They might just get knocked towards a wall, and in that case the wall will stop them and they won't actually be knocked back too far. You also have to aim your super and you can't hit through walls or anything like that, so it's a very inconsistent way to actually push your opponents off the zone. Then we have Piper, and with her super, with the bombs she drops, those deal pushback and also break walls around. So if you super right on top of where the ball is about to land, if any opponents are there, they are definitely going to get pushed away, even if there are walls in the area, because those will just be gone by the time the bomb explodes. But once again, the issue with Piper here is that you have to actually get to the point where the ball is going to land, and that's very hard to do that with how little health you have. Now, Piper also has her auto aimer gadget, which provides her with another way to push back a single brawler off of the point, but you still have to get pretty close in order to use it, so that way you're not being blocked by any walls, and there only has to be a single person defending, which isn't always the case. The next best push effect is Brock with his Rocket Laces gadget. Once again, you do have to get near the point in order to use this gadget and actually hit your opponent. It's just that Brock's gadget is a lot more predictable and easy to use because it happens instantly when you tap the gadget, so in those cases when you do get on the point, it's just going to be a lot more consistent to deny your opponent the ball. Then we have Nani. Of course, the pushback effect is with her super, so you have to really time this right, and you use your super and you control Peep. You just have to make sure that it hits everyone on the point right before the ball is about to land, and they'll be pushed out of the way and you can score that way. Now, it's not the hardest thing in the world to get your super, but you probably won't be able to do this every single time your opponents are about to hit the ball, and also the timing is very difficult to get right since you have to maneuver your way around the map while driving Peep, and there are a lot of ways your opponents can outplay you by trying to run directly into the Peep early so that way it won't be there when the ball is about to land. Then we have Bull with his super, so this is very similar to Daryl's in the way it pushes back your opponents and things like that. It's just you can also break walls, so this is a lot more useful because you can use it from any point on the map and ensure you're going to actually get to that point where the ball's about to land, so your opponents can't really play around this as much because you can come in from any side. But the knockback is still really small and you have to time it absolutely perfectly if you want it to work, and if it doesn't work, you're probably in a really bad spot because your dash is just going to continue all the way down. Next up we have Jackie, and her super does have a decent pull effect and it lasts for a pretty significant amount of time, so if you hit your opponents with this, you have a pretty wide margin of error for actually ensuring that they don't get back to hit the ball. Now, of course, the issue is actually hitting your opponents. You can't exactly pull them through walls because they'll be stopped by the wall before they get close to you, so you have to come at them from the right angle, and the range on it is just not that large, so you might not get all of your opponents, and if there are any opponents left over, they can always come back onto the point and hit the ball away. Next up, we have Surge with his super. When he lands on the ground, he will deal a pushback effect. It's enough to clear out the point underneath the ball. I put it up this high because it's fairly easy to charge your super with Surge, and on top of that, it's not too hard to actually get on top of the point where you need to use your super because you have your gadgets. So you basically want to do this whenever there's a wall right next to where the ball's about to land on your opponent's side, and then you want to wait behind that wall so you're safely protected, and then right when it's about to land, you can gadget through the wall and then use your super and clear out the point. Still requires a lot of timing, but is a lot more consistent than some of the previous things we've talked about. Next, we have Tick, and his super is very easy to cycle, so you're going to be able to have a lot of pushback effects over the course of the game. The only issue is it's really hard to time when your super is actually going to hit your opponents. And on top of that, like with Nani's super, they can always try to get it to explode before it reaches the point if they play around it. But Tick actually has another pushback effect with his Last Hurrah gadget, so this is another last ditch attempt you can make. If you are near where the ball's about to land, you can get a bit closer with your super. That shield is going to help you do that, and then you are going to push them back once that shield explodes. Next up we have Penny, and you're going to have to use the Pocket Detonator gadget here, so you're going to have to charge up your super in order to use this, and it's a bit hard to charge up a super with Penny, especially with all the aggressive brawlers on this mode. It sometimes can be hard to get that first super with Penny, but once you do, you can throw that turret right on the point and immediately use your gadget and make it explode, and that's going to push all the opponents back and potentially give you a free point. It's only this low because it's really hard to charge consistently, and your opponents could also potentially destroy the turret before you're able to even release the gadget if they have a really high DPS. Next up we have Frank with his gadget that's going to pull enemies closer to him if he hits them with his attack. This has a pretty solid amount of pull, and so it'll definitely give you a large margin of error, so it'll definitely be pretty consistent. Once you do pull off the attack, it's unlikely that they'll be able to get back onto the point, but you can hit through walls with this gadget, so you do have to get from a good angle, or you can just use your super beforehand, stun them on the point, and then pull them back once you have that line of sight on them after breaking through all the walls with your super. Next up we have Gene with his super that lets you pull a single brawler all the way towards you. So this is probably one of the best pull effects in the game. The main issue here for Gene is that it only affects one person. So if there are ever two people that are near the point, you're not going to be able to do anything, and there's no way for you to get a point in this situation. But in those cases where there is only one person, you can basically guarantee every time that they won't be able to get to the point because you're just pulling them so far away from where they were standing. But now Gene also has a pushback gadget, so it's not going to be very effective for the same reason that M's gadget isn't going to be very effective. You have to get really, really close to where the ball's about to land, and that's not really where you want to be with a Gene. But it does slightly add to his effectiveness at being able to get these points in Volley Brawl. Then we have Shelly and the pushback effect from her super. It hits through walls, so it's great. It covers a pretty large area. The only issue is the pushback isn't all that much, and you have to actually charge up her super in the first place, so it might not be all that easy to cycle, especially if there are a lot of long-range brawlers on the opponent's team. Then we have Lou with his super, and this isn't really a push or a pull effect, but it does really jank up the movement of your opposing brawlers, and it makes it very, very difficult for them to accurately go straight to where the ball is going to land. So it basically functions the same as a push or a pull effect, and you can charge it up pretty quickly, and every person you get stuck in this area, you can get some free attacks on them when they do get stunned, and so you can cycle this super fairly quickly, which is why I put it this high on the list. Then we have Colette, and she's only going to get pushback if she's running the Push It star power with her super. Now it's similar to Gene, where this push is super long and is basically guaranteed to get you a point if you can hit it on everyone near the zone where the ball's about to land. And it's fairly accurate. Your hitbox is very wide for the Push It star power, so if there is anyone nearby, you're very likely to hit them with this super. The main drawback is that you can't go through walls, so you do have to position yourself well before you use this super, and that's what's going to make it a bit worse than some of the better pushback effects that you really want to use that I'm about to talk about. So next up we have Bibi with just her main attack. If you charge up that home run bar, you're going to push back the next opponent you hit. Now this pushback effect is going to be the one you're going to have the most out of all of these gadgets and supers. Obviously your main attack is going to always charge up faster, so you're always going to have it, and Bibi has a pretty decent amount of health where she's going to be able to get close enough to the opponent's zone pretty often where she can get in range of everyone on it and push them all back. The pushback isn't the largest thing in the world, and she doesn't hit through walls or anything like that, but just the fact that you're going to have this so often and you're going to be able to get near wherever the ball is going to land very often is what puts this really high. Then we have Sprout with the wall you get from the super. If you just throw this right where the ball is about to land, if it's actually in the right exact spot, it can completely cover the zone where the ball is about to land and 100% guarantee that you will get a point. So it is very powerful, but even if it doesn't completely cover the zone, if you throw it right when the ball is about to land, it will cause the opponents there to get pushed back a little bit, and so that can buy you just the right amount of time for that ball to fall down and hit the ground, giving you a point. Coming into the best 5 push and pull effects for Volley Brawl now, we have Tara with her super. It is a bit difficult to charge Tara's super, but with the amount of back and forth there is in this game, you are going to be dealing a lot of damage to your opponent, so it isn't going to be that hard. So you are definitely going to be able to get several of these in a game. But when you do get your super, it has such a large area of effect, and you can throw it over walls. So you can use this from pretty much any angle. You don't have to get all that close to where the ball is about to land. Opponents will get stopped if they get pulled into a wall or something like that, so you do have to be a bit careful, but there usually is some angle you can throw it at such that it will completely pull them off the zone, and it holds them there for a pretty sizable amount of time, not to mention putting them in a very good spot for you to kill them and cycle your next super on top of that. So this is going to be a very solid way of consistently pulling your opponents off of the zone right when the ball is about to land. Another consistent way is Gale with his super. Has a massively long pushback effect. The only drawback is that you have to aim it properly, because if you ever push them into a wall, they're going to get stopped and potentially have a chance to come all the way back to right under the ball. So because the positioning can sometimes be a bit weird and prevent you from actually being able to get them off the point, that's why it's not quite at the very top of the list. But this is still a very powerful pushback effect, and that's why Gale is pretty solid in this mode. Then we have Colonel Ruffs with his air superiority star power, giving him pushback and wall break on his super. So this is going to completely cover the point that's directly underneath the ball, so if you use it at the right time, you can clear anyone off who's trying to stand there and basically guarantee that the ball is going to hit the ground if you time it absolutely perfectly, which you will get used to the more you practice the mode. But you don't have to worry about walls anywhere because you're breaking the walls when it lands, and you don't have to worry about getting that close to the zone because you can throw this super over walls. So it's a very, very consistent and very powerful pushback effect for Volleyball. In second place, we have Dynamite with his super. It's basically the same function as Ruff's super in this mode, where you just throw it right before the ball is about to land, and its area of effect pushes everyone off of that point, and if you timed it right, you're basically guaranteed to get the score. But Dynamite Super also deals more damage and has a larger area, so that's why it's higher up. And then at the very top, we have El Primo, who's been at the very top of basically every tier list in the past month. But El Primo's super is actually kind of similar to Ruff Super and Dynamite Super, where you can use it from anywhere, and it affects an AoE right where you land, so if you time it right before the ball lands, you're good to go. But the thing is, Primo also has two other pushback effects. With his Suplex Supplements gadget, you can take a single target and throw them over your head, so that completely gets them off the zone if there's only one person remaining on the zone. And after you jump on people a couple of times and put out an insane amount of damage, a lot of times there will only be one person left, and so if they're trying to defend because they have to, then you can just throw them over your head and there's absolutely no way for them to defend the ball. You can also use it as a failsafe for your super if you time it incorrectly. You will have pushed most people off the zone, but there will be probably one person trying to come back for the point right before the ball's about to land, but note, you can just send them right over your head with the gadget and ensure that your team will get the points. But if you don't like that gadget, the other gadget also has pushback effect with the meteor that rains down from the sky, and luckily it targets right where people are standing, and you know where they're standing, it's right underneath the ball because they have to stand there at some point, otherwise they won't be able to hit the ball. Now there is a bit of outplay they can do by standing a bit off the zone and then walking there at the very end so the meteor doesn't have enough time to come all the way down, but most of your opponents won't actually do this, although I do prefer the Suplex Supplement for that reason. But that being said, no matter what build you're going with, Primo always has two different pushback effects, the super of which is extremely, extremely good in this mode, and the other of which is just a very nice bonus to have on top of it. So that's why I think he's the best push and pull brawler for this mode. So now you know the best brawlers, get out there and start farming some trophies because you got a week to do it.